All right. Hello, everyone. We are live. Hello. I see your people on there in the Facebook group.
Yay.
Go ahead and say hello. Hello. So, welcome everyone back to the Holistic Mystic Show. My name is Boston Summer, and this week on the Holistic Mystic Show, we are talking about the art and the power of integration with Opal Guyberson. She is someone that as soon as I met her, I knew we were going to become friends. It was like one of those past life or like kindred soul moments. And I'm really just truly so grateful to have her sharing her wisdom with us. She is someone who I trust holds space for me. And I'm very, very picky about like the people I work with, the healers I work with. And she walks this path with depth and integrity, and you can feel it and you can hear it in everything she says. So, furthermore, without further ado, say hello to Opal and let's welcome her to the show. I'm gonna unpin myself. All right. So Opal is a spiritual awakening and integration guide, helping women feel safe to do the inner work. So, all right, let's go ahead. So, Opal, what is integration?
Hi, first, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everybody. Um, so integration is a lot of people, especially in this line of work, we chase these healing moments, right? The journey, the meditation, that breakthrough. We chase the breakthrough and we get it and we go, yes, that was it. But then the unraveling kind of happens afterwards. And when I work with my clients, and something I've even seen with myself is we get that breakthrough and that high, but then that's like if you were to view this as a what's the visual I'm getting? Like you're taking a guided tour through like the woods. This is the start of the trail, like the trailhead, if you will. That's the breakthrough. Integration is all you do, everything you do after that point. So if the aha is, okay, I have this shadow aspect of myself in terms of, I'm going to use a personal example right now because it's very vivid for me in my life. Masking, for example. If you have a shadow with masking and you know you mask a certain way, that's the aha. Now you get to integrate that into your system. That includes your mind. What's your mind doing? What roles are you playing when you're doing that? Then you get your body online. And sometimes our body doesn't want to play ball. Sometimes our body's like, no, I'm not doing that. And we'll get like anxiety, or we'll get emotional, or we'll feel weighed down by things. And so the integration is taking the topic and making it an everyday part of your life to either bring something into your life or to move beyond a limitation, if that makes sense.
Wow, I love that. I've never heard it described like that. I feel like the way that you're describing, like the breakthrough is like the trailhead, and then the integration is like everything that comes after it. And I think that that's a really clear representation of like, that's only the beginning. There's still all this other stuff, to look at, to unpack. And when you do have those times and that spaces, like, that is how we can truly feel like we're changing our lives, right? It's like those, we need those big aha moments for clarity, for truth, to see ourselves clearly. But then like, how do we bring that into the mundane, right? So thank you for
Exactly.
sharing it that way.
Yeah. And it's so in my personal journey, when I really got deep into my growth and my awakening, integration was the very first thing that kind of presented itself to me. I was in this program, another mentor of mine was doing, and I had devoured week one. And this is one of my go-to things. I just hyper consume information, and I'm like, hey, let me more. And I had finished week one like in 2 or 3 days, and I'm like, why can't I get to week two? And she goes, because this is a 2 week process. Like you learn the information and then you let it marinate. And I was like, huh? What? And she's like, do you want me to unlock week two? And I was like, no, there's a reason that you have this. Let me just sit with it. And I'll be damned if it wasn't like 2 days later, I got hit with something that had I let her unlock week 2, I would have completely bypassed.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's when it really, like, that's when the idea of, oh, how much bypassing it, like, this is where the term like spiritual bypassing comes from too, is we'll chase the thing that we can say, oh, I did the journey, I did the thing, I got all the, I have all
I
these
got
things
the
I checked.
certification.
Yeah. Or like I did the ayahuasca journey, or I had
Right.
whatever the experience is. And those are really great and they have a purpose, but that is not where the work actually is. It's what happens after. That's like someone says, here's your map. Those breakthrough moments is someone handing you the map of the topic, and that's the trailhead. But once you hit the trailhead, there's 1,000 different ways that you can get to your destination or to the next phase in that cycle. And so for me, that was huge for me, is having that like intentional pause where I was like, no, you learned the topic. Now let's see what unfolds. And that if I wouldn't have done that, I'm not really sure where I would be now.
And I do think that it's really common in the spiritual community. We all know that spiritual bypassing happens a lot, and maybe people aren't aware, and that's okay. And so I think just the awareness piece around like, are we integrating? Are we allowing space to pause and digest what we've learned? Those kinds of situations, but also like I tell my clients all the time, especially at ceremonies, when I have a shamanic journey, we want those big aha moments, but don't disregard the little messages to bring into your daily life, because that's how you're really going to change your world. That's how you're going to change your reality, and that's how you're going to co-create something that with spirit that you're going to be happy and fulfilled. And so, if we want the nice body, we want the big bank account, like we have to take actions towards that. And integration can seem or sorry, it can, the healing work can seem totally just left undone if we just move to a different topic. So I love that you brought that to the table. Opal, my next question for you is like, what is your specific journey with integration look like? Like why do you feel like it's so important in your personal life? Or
So
why is it so important for you?
yeah, so something that I have noticed, not only with myself, but I have worked with several people who have gone into these spaces and been held in a journey of some kind, of a shamanic journey, a meditation, a medicine journey. They've gone into these environments and they got exactly what they went for. But when they went home, they were not prepared and they weren't educated and they weren't held in that unfurling that happens afterwards. And I have worked with a lot of people that came to me and they're like, I feel lost. I feel like I have all these tools and I don't know what the hell to do with them. I feel like there's something standing in my way. And I've heard that over and over and over with my clients, and I've seen it enough within myself too to recognize that when we have aha moments, we open and we expand our energetic body. We physically become more light, more expanded, more open. And we need that in order to recognize where our limitation was and where the boundary is moving. But if we're not rooted and we don't have solid protocols or rituals or practices in place that protect our energetic bodies, we actually kind of become vulnerable to other things to attach to us or to affect us more deeply than maybe before. And so this is sometimes I've actually worked with people that after a journey, a medicine journey, they felt that a negative entity attached to them. And we've had to work through like, how do we cleanse this? How do we protect and like rebutton up your energy so that and that can be very scary, especially depending on someone's background and what they're pulling from. So I help people recognize where they're at, I help people see and let me choose my word carefully there because I don't think the word I was about to say was the right word. I help people pull open their idea or perspective on what their experiences actually are so that they can see the full picture.
Mm.
If that makes sense. So integration, we can get so caught up in the minute details, like having a dream and getting like, okay, the neighbor across the street made out with my husband in my dream. Totally random, not had this dream, but let's go there. And we can get caught up in the very fine details. Why was it my neighbor? Why was my husband involved? And
Mm.
we don't see what the full big picture is. We don't see the full message. We're caught in the lower vibration stuff. So what I do is I help detach from that like specificity and the really minute details, and I help people pull back so that they can see the broader message, and they can look at, okay, we're at this trailhead and we have these options. Which is the best option for you in this moment based on what we're facing now? And
Mm.
how do we get you from here and what you're experiencing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to where you want to be? And that is something that I've had to figure out on my own.
Mm.
I've had lots of mentors that have guided me in different ways, and I've created this. I'm super excited to actually to share this. I haven't formally like put it out into the world. I've kind of mentioned it a few times, but I'm working on. I call it the weird framework. There's 4 pieces to it. It's witnessing, yielding, which is kind of like this slowing down and taking it in and figuring out where we're going. And then you have reclaiming and deepening. And it's this process that we go through over and over and over again. And it's a spiral. And we just keep coming back and keep moving through it. And so I've been able to take my own personal experiences, and I've seen the common themes with the clients that I've worked with, and I've been able to kind of mold them into this framework. So that is where back to your original question, why is it so important to me? And I think it's because as healers, as support systems for people that are going through these awakening journeys and self-development and growth and expansion, I think that we have an obligation, if we can't do it, to at least point people in the right place where they can get the support they need after those aha moments. And I have not been able to find a cohesive place that had what I needed. So now I'm creating it. And that's not to say other people don't
Yeah.
have systems and that those, I just didn't find any that worked for me. So I'm creating one that works for me that other people like me can use. So
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I feel like that's so um I just love how you're like, I haven't found it, so let me create one. And that's gonna be like through your channel, that's gonna be the most potent thing because you've walked the path, right? You have figured out like what are the steps that I'm constantly seeing that I'm finding. And so I think that that's going to be super powerful for your clients when they come and see you.
yeah.
Um, Beautiful. Is there anything else around that specifically that you wanted to share about that?
About my new framework,
Yeah.
or yeah. So um the man, I get so excited when I think about this framework because, as you know, we worked together all of last year, and there's been a lot of things that have been floating and moving, and this brings them all together. And it all these piece parts that I've seen visually and I've been able to connect with energetically, they've all finally found their way into this framework. And I'm really excited because I'm going to turn it into a membership, and then I'm also going to turn it into a program so that and that's what I'm working on currently behind the scenes, so that those that are already like, I'm super hyper aware of myself, and I have the capability of like seeing something and taking myself there and bringing myself back. And not everybody has that. And that's just a gift that I have that I know I'm really strong at doing. And so what my membership will be is to help set people through that if they are more like me and they just need a couple of nudges here and there to go deeper. And then the program will be designed to help those that maybe aren't as aware and self-driven to get them to those places. And we'll do it as a group format so that we have the support of others. Because one thing that I have learned personally through all of the programs I've ever done is when you're in a group setting, even though someone else is talking about what they're going through and it may be completely different, the way it rings true in our own life and the way that it connects us and the awarenesses that we can see and go, oh man, I've never been in that specific situation, but holy shit, this is how I can use that. And you can pull from those different threads from other people, and we end up, and I view this as like a spider web almost, where we have these threads, or not a spider web is kind of how it originally came, but then we have like a loom where you're weaving these tapestries. And so we have our own individual threads, but then we can weave them in and out of other people to create this tapestry of something. And so we have our own individual weavings that we do, and then we have collective weavings where we impact others and they impact us. And I'm finding that my friends and the other people I work with, even my clients, like we're all intertwined. When people show up for a ceremony, and it's like, I mean, that's how you and I were connected. We showed up to ceremony that one time, and it was just like it was meant to be, and it just pours out like this endless cup of something. And that is what that framework is for. It's a container where we can move and flow and let things evolve as they're meant to in the safety of that container, in the what's the word I'm looking for? It's right there. Like the rooted and the protection of the container.
Yeah, that sounds so, oh my gosh, sounds powerful, because it sounds like you're helping people not only like identify like what they need, where they want to go, but like how, right? Like the tangible action steps that help us to learn and grow and evolve. And so what do you think are some tangible ways that anyone listening now can start bringing some of that power of integration into their lives? Like if you were to choose one, maybe two things.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the two aspects of integration that I think are the most powerful for anybody, it always starts with self-awareness. And it's kind of that slice of humble pie that nobody really wants to eat because it tastes like shit.
Yeah.
But it starts there. It has to. Because if we're not willing to stop taking our own shit and to stop reading the same bullshit stories over and over again and believing them, you're not going to get anywhere. And so it has to start with self-awareness. It has to start with, somebody made a comment to me that said, I repeat myself over and over and over again. What does that mean? Why am I doing that? I could say, oh, well, that's just because you're not listening. That is the piece of self-awareness, that if your comment or thought is they did, or they should, or that person is, or whatever, if it is externally focused, you're missing something. And that is a hard pill to swallow. But every major breakthrough and every big shift I have ever had in my own personal life starts with the whole like one finger pointing out is 3 pointing or 4 pointing back at you. That's exactly what that looks like. My husband makes comments to me all the time that says, why, when you explain something to me, do you keep repeating yourself over and over again? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe because you don't listen, or because you're not acknowledging it, or blah, blah, blah. Like, again, that's external focused. Instead, I said, why do I repeat myself? What is the drive to repeat myself over and over and over again? And that led me down a path to start looking at myself and why I do things. And now I have a better understanding of why I do those things. Turns out I have some neurodivergence and I have some ADHD, and that is a journey I went down to better understand myself. Not everybody needs those labels, not everybody needs those understandings, but I had heard this comment enough and I bypassed it. Oh, it's him. I have to say this 16 times because the dude doesn't listen. No, it's because of something in me needing that repetition in order for me to grasp the idea that I am trying to say. So that is a personal example of how I took self-awareness and I turned it back and went inward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have this very deep understanding of myself on a whole new level. And I get to watch how this unfolds throughout my life. So self-awareness is a big one. And I would say the next piece that is very strongly tied to self-awareness is self-acceptance. This is how I am, but I get to decide whether or not it's still necessary to survive, to be safe. Am I safe currently in my relationship to where if I stopped repeating myself 5 times in a conversation, what would happen? Am I safe enough to take off a mask? Am I safe enough to not have a pleasant expression when someone talks to me when really I'm like, I don't get it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so self-awareness, that's the beginning. And then the next, that's honestly the hardest, that's the hardest pill to swallow. And then right after that, it's the acceptance piece. And then you get to move through the acceptance and start to kind of look at, okay, now that I know that this is how I am and this is why I am, now I can decide, does this serve me? And does this serve who I want to become?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then I can decide whether or not that's an aligned behavior for where I want to go.
Wow. What you said, Opal, you were like, oh my gosh, I just lost it. What did you just say? You have to decide if this is who I want to be, or what did you just say?
So once you have the awareness and you have the acceptance, you get to look then at the behaviors and decide, is this aligned with who I want to be and where I want to go? Or is this something I can let go?
Yeah. And that
And
often is some of the hardest parts. And I think that it's what you're creating is really beautiful because sometimes it's hard to do alone. It not sometimes, the majority of the times it's hard to do alone. And it's not a lot of people have support spaces where, people are understanding or even on the same path. Like I know a lot of people who have spouses who are just on a whole different consciousness, right? And so they might not have those spaces. And so I love that you're creating that. So you can consciously and intentionally look at your behaviors, look at the way you're acting, looking at who you want to be and how can we get there? How can we also not shut off these parts that maybe we don't want to look at either, right? And
right.
bringing that into wholeness. And to me, that's a huge piece of integration, is bringing the dark and the light together and being able to hold both. And I love that you brought self-acceptance into that. So that's so beautiful. Thank you. So my last question for you second to last question.
Okay.
How do you implement integration on a day-to-day basis in your life?
Looks different every day. It really does.
For
And
someone who may be new to kind of understanding like this whole concept still, right?
I think the foundation of integration is, again, it really goes back to what I was just talking about, self-awareness, acceptance, and then making these decisions to move forward. And some days you have more self-awareness than others. Some days, like if you wake up tired, you should know yourself well enough that you have most people have a lot less capacity when they're tired or when they're hungry. And this is true with toddlers. Anybody that's ever raised a child, the go-to when you have a toddler or a young kid, when they are having a meltdown or having a tough time, are they hungry? Are they tired? Or are they upset about something? We're toddlers with just a little bit more complexity. Are you
Yeah, that's
hungry?
fair.
Have you had water? Are you tired? Or is something really bothering you? And if you can rule out hunger, you can rule out being like just genuinely tired, then you know that you've got something a little deeper to look at. But a lot of times we get stuck in the default, the repetitive
Mhm.
doing. This is just who I am, and I'm just tired of being, triggered all the time. And your triggers are yours. And so when it comes to integrating, we have to get clear on what the goal is. What's my
Mm.
goal here? And some days our goal is just to get through the day, minute
And
to
having the self-awareness and grace and acceptance to be that's okay. And other days when you have that capacity.
exactly. And I'll give you a prime example. This morning, I've had the last couple days, I've been down this rabbit hole consuming information about neurodivergence. And this is a very new thing in my world. And so I've been hyper consuming, but like I had these moments where I was like, whoa, wow, I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I understand myself on a whole new level now. But that was yesterday. Today's a different day. Today, my nervous system said, mm, you are masking a lot right now. And now I'm fully aware and I have this new set of lenses. So it's kind of like getting a new prescription from the eye doctor. You put them on for a while and your eyes go, I just really can't handle it today. There's a process, there's a time it takes for the visuals to catch up to the brain and the brain to catch up to like the new set of prescription, right? There's an integration period with visuals. And so this morning I was very reactive. I actually found that I was on my cell phone doing a lot of this. I'm like, this is unusual. I don't normally, I can put my phone down and leave it for the whole day. And I put it down, I'd start doing something, and I just was like, I got to pick up my phone back up. I got to pick my phone back up. I'm like, this is not, something's off. It took me about 2 or 3 hours of doing that and going, I'm emotional today. Everything's making me cry. Like that's unusual. Um, and finally it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, I am unregulated right now. And that was the self-awareness. I had the self-awareness to go, I am picking up my phone significantly more than I normally do, significantly more. That's unusual. That is not normal for me. That is a clue to tell me my body is like something's off, something's up. Sometimes we get irritable. Sometimes we do repetitive activities. I do repetitive activities. And it's that self-awareness. And then from there, I was able to make the decision, okay, how do I want to help myself through this? Well, what do I know works for me? I know meditation, or at least like breathing, breath work for me is very powerful. I know that sitting outside with my butt or my feet in the grass is very powerful for me. I know that smoke cleanse is very powerful for me. I know that my bowls are very powerful for me. I only know those things because I've spent the last 2 years exploring them. If you don't
Right.
know that about yourself, it may be a little bit harder. And that's where going into spaces where you can have someone say, try this, try this, try that. It is literally a trial and error. What's going to work for me? Punch a bag, yell into a pillow, draw, rip paper. Like it's trial and error. And every day it's a little different. And some days I can get it really fast. And other days it it'll be like the whole day, and Adrian will go, my husband will be like, what is going on with you? You're being really shitty right now. And I'm like, I don't know. But now that you've said that, I kind of feel like I have to take a step back and really internalize this right now, because I didn't recognize I've been shitty all day.
My husband does that too. He knows me well enough and he hears the words that I'm saying. And he's like, Boston, I understand you're upset right now, but what's really going on? What are you really upset about? And that's
Yeah.
usually all I need to like be like, oh shit, I'm in a an emotional loop right now, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So for anyone that's new to this, anyone new to any kind of healing journey or self-expression or self-exploration, your number one indicator that's going to help you, in my opinion anyway, in my experience anyway, this isn't true for everybody, so this is just my take. Being able to understand the language of your mind and your body, that is self-awareness. I am wound up. I am like shoulders up, clenched fist, clenched jaw, like, whew, why am I clenched everywhere? And sometimes you don't notice it till you get a twinge in your neck and you're like, why does my neck hurt right now? Well, that's because you've been doing this all day. You know, your belly talks to you all the time, whether you lean forward or lean backwards. These are all body and like nervous system cues that can tell you if something's off or not. And so that's where self-awareness really starts to come in. It is a intimate understanding of how your body, mind, and soul work together to navigate this like simulated life that we live.
And I think it's important to know, Opal, because you're bringing that up, is that you will probably, I'm not going to speak into existence for anyone, okay? But more than likely, when you're in in a rabbit hole, you're walking the trail of whatever the integration is, your nervous system will probably tell you it feels unsafe, right? Because you are trying to navigate life new in a new way. You're trying to take a look and a peek and open up to a lot of the things maybe you haven't understood about yourself before, or you haven't been willing to want to see. And a lot of it can do with past trauma. And so I think it's important to note that about when you're doing this work, like being on purpose and intentional with the regulating of the nervous system.
Absolutely. And that brings up a really good point too. When we have ahas, we have breakthroughs, and then we start the integration process. The entire point of integration is to bring these things that meet the topic of the aha into your existence so you can observe it, so you can become intimately familiar with it, and so you can decide whether or not this is something that's going to stay or needs to go. And so, you know, for example, if fear is one of your topics that you're working through that became present in this aha moment, everything that makes you afraid of that thing is going to bring itself into your awareness. Something is going to trigger it. And that is literally the point of this. It's kind of like when
It's
somebody
not for
buys
the
a
faint-hearted, that's for sure.
no,
This soul work.
no. And the way that it works is it's a mirror. You are now, you brought this thing into the light, and now it is mirroring every aspect of this thing in your world because you brought it to your attention. It's kind of like if you've ever bought a car and you never noticed the car until you bought it. Now you see the damn car everywhere. Like, when the hell did 1,600 people get the same exact car as me?
Yeah, right.
It's that same thing. It is now in your awareness. So now you're going to start seeing it over and over and over again until it either becomes like the discomfort of just dealing with it is more comfortable than that being like what they call the familiar hell.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the universe's test that is the test, right? Like, how many times are you going to let this thing keep pounding the shit out of you before you make the decision to go, wait a minute, I'm over this.
Yeah.
What in me needs to change to stop getting this snot beat out of me by this thing? And that is the moment you take back your power and you go, that's the thing that needs to change.
And you can choose yourself in that
Right.
situation.
Exactly.
Wow. Thank you so much for all of your medicine, all of your mic drops. Like, I love listening to you talk and all the wisdom you share, and the way that you word things is really potent. So thank you so much for sharing. My last question for you, Opal, is how can people stay connected to you?
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to share my wisdom and my medicine. This stuff really, truly brings me to life. So I'm very grateful I get to do this and be here. So people can currently work with me. I have one-on-one sessions doing my release and reclaim, which is a very deep energetic cleanse. We go in, we take a focus area, a topic, and we go in and we do some heavy removal of any energies that are associated with that. Sometimes that is energy release, sometimes that's ancestral. And we go in and we remove that, and then we fill those spaces with supportive energy. And then from there, I offer one-on-one integration sessions where we can take whatever that topic was and we can start to actually work through that. And then I also offer women's circles. I do have one coming up this Saturday. So we're doing a summer solstice. I actually just recently decided to change the format of those. I will only be offering those as the seasons change now instead of every month. And those are actually intended to be it's kind of a look into what the releasing reclaim session is all about. So I bring that same framework into the healing circle. And it's just done in a group format, and it's slightly condensed since we're doing that in a larger group. And then once I get my membership and my program out, I will be sending that information out to my Facebook group, or not my Facebook group, my email group. I was looking at the Facebook group for you, my email group, and then it'll kind of evolve from there. But my website is the Opal Crow. I'm sure that's probably where you were going with that, theopalcrow.com, or you can email me at theopalcrow@gmail.com.
Beautiful. And do they need to do anything when they email you? Just say
Yeah, just let me know what it is you're looking for. I do have information on integration sessions and release and reclaim sessions on my website, so you can read about those. That's also where you can book a session, is on my website. But if websites aren't, I know some people don't really like to do that. So email, you can just say, hey, this is my problem. How do you think you can help me? And then we can start the dialogue from there.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. You guys have to get in her space because she is just pure magic. Thank you so much, Opal. I love you so much. And to all of you, those who watching, I will share all of those, her website and her email in the show notes, so you can look for them there. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Shine your light in the world. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.